We're here at Brains Award tonight at Savoy, London, and we have with us a very distinguished personality standing next to us and speaking to TVapex. He is Professor Tony Buzan, who's the inventor of mind maps and the founder of Brain Trust Charity. Without a further ado, we'll speak to him. Tony, we welcome you to TVapex. What do you have to say?
Thank you for that lovely introduction.
Thank you, our pleasure. Tony, please tell us your association about mind maps and what is it all about.
Mind mapping was an invention when I was not doing well in school. I found my notes, like everybody else's notes, boring, dull, and my marks and my confidence started to go down.
It's unbelievable though.
Yes, so I began to realize step by step that the brain used images, imagination, that linearity didn't work. Albert Einstein said there are no straight lines in the universe. And I said, a mind map is obviously going to obey Albert Einstein, so the mind map is like an organic, tree-like map of one's thought. So I invented the mind map to help myself and you and everybody using their brains. So the mind map is a tool to think, remember, create, learn, and expand the flower of your intelligence.
Sure. Tony, we believe we are at this, it's more of a presentation and award thing at tonight at Brain Awards. How do you say what the evening is all about and what your association with Ray Keane OBE?
The evening is about the brain, and it's an annual award for the person around the world who has used the human brain most creatively, most meaningfully, and has used it for the well-being of humanity.
Wow.
And in addition to that, the brain is part of the body.
It is.
So it's not just the brain, it's the brain and body. So all the winners of the award are people who are totally involved in people. They create brilliantly, they help teach everybody, they help do good things for the world, and they are mind and body, ethical, spiritual, multiply intelligent people. Those are the people who win the Brain of the Year award.
Lovely. What's your association with Mr. Ray Keane OBE to help organize this tonight?
Grandmaster Raymond Keane.
Yes, that's it.
One of the greatest chess players and chess writers and mind sport writers. I met him in the late part of the 1980s, beginning of the 1990s. And his mind is so powerful, so magnificent, and so socially directed. His goal as a graduate from Cambridge University, as a top student, his goal was to help everybody learn to think. And my goal was to teach everybody about the brain and how to learn it, about memory and about thinking creativity. So
so much relevance.
Yeah, well, our life goals blended like that.
Absolutely.
And so we became like Rodgers and Hammerstein, of music. We just worked together to help the world learn about its brain, learn to think, and learn to celebrate the beauty, the magnificence, the goodness of the multiple intelligences that everybody has.
Tony, we love your work and we're here to support your cause.
Thank you.
We're looking forward to a wonderful evening tonight, and we'll catch you very soon for a detailed insight in what you do. That'd be interesting.
I will be delighted to talk about that. And where we are actually now talking, it's in Simpsons in the Strand. This location is known as the Mecca of the mind.
Of the mind, yes.
That's why it's held here. That's why we meet. That's why we meet.
Well, thank you very much for speaking to TVapex. Viewers, this was Tony Buzan, and we'll show you the rest of the evening tonight. So stay with us. Viewers, we have with us Mr. Ray Keane, OBE, Grandmaster Ray Keane, if that's more appropriate to say.
That's right.
Ray, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I think it's going extremely well.
It's a pleasure to have you speaking to TVapex, Ray. Tell us what's going on with Brain Awards tonight at Savoy here at Simpsons.
It's a charity called the Brain Trust. It's been going for 20 years. It's a well-recognised charity, and we promote everything to do with the intellect. And what we've been thinking recently, and partly inspired by Apex Television actually, is
Thank you.
that we need to think now about the way that intelligence can combat interracial stupidity and interfaith stupidity. And we had the example last week of the Boston bombings.
Absolutely.
We've got invasions of countries going all over the place, all sorts of terrible things happening, and it's because people are not using their intelligence to solve the problems, they're reacting stupidly. And I think that an alliance in the future between the Brain Trust charity, Apex Television, for getting the word out, could be a real benefit for the whole planet, because this is going out all over the world tonight, and I foresee a brilliant future where we work together to create intelligence, tolerance, racial understanding, and eliminating stupid decisions that destroy people's lives.
And to bridge the gap, multiculturalism.
Absolutely. You know, I mean, we don't subscribe to any particular religion. We're very fond of Christians. We love Islam.
Absolutely.
You know, we're very fond of Hindus and Buddhists, and these are all manifestations of a great truth, in my opinion. And we have to find the truth and stop people doing idiotic things to each other. And I think that our charity and your television station, together, we can do great things.
Great. Ray, that's brilliant. What's your association with this particular award now? And then how can mind mapping or speed reading or healthy activities like chess playing sort of mold a person into sort of positive sort of...
I'll answer the second question first.
Go for it.
All these activities, playing chess, mind mapping, speed reading, they help people to use their brains. It's training for the brain. It's like a gymnasium for the mind.
Absolutely.
And my role in this is I've organised the whole evening. I'm the director of the Brain Trust charity. I've put everything together, I've pulled it all together, and I've helped to create the award, which is being won tonight. Shall I say who won? Professor Michael Crawford, whose work is nutrition for the brain. That there is massive deterioration of people's brains all around the world because they're eating the wrong food, they're doing the wrong things. And one of his great discoveries is that marine nutrition strengthens the brain. It increases intelligence. Eating fish, eating seaweed, iodine, the nutrients in fish, even jellyfish, help you to be more intelligent. So he's a wonderful person to have won the award. It's fantastic.
That's why we all love the seafood to the limits.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Ray, thank you very much for speaking to TVapex, and we're happy to share your vision, and we will be with you whenever you're there to do this beautiful work out there in the society. Thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Distinguished guests, I hope you've enjoyed your dinner, and we're now going to move on to the slightly more formal part of the evening, and we're going to start. Is the microphone working? No? I'll speak more loudly. We're going to start by inviting our founder, Tony Buzan, to the forum, and Tony will address you concerning previous winners of the award, an international galaxy of super brain superstars, and then he will read out two of his poems which relate to the winners, the nature of winning, past winners, and we will then move on to the announcement of this year's winner and the award ceremony. So, big hand for Tony Buzan, the founder of the Brain Trust charity.
Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is really a family home. This is the mecca of the mind, and you are the minds. And let me just talk about some of the winners, and we have present winners and one past. In 1994, the winner of this particular award was an extraordinary human being. He was a delinquent. In school, his headmasters and mistresses wrote, "This child is hopeless. He will never amount to anything. He will never graduate from any significant establishment." So at the age of 17, he was basically dismissed from society. He could not concentrate, and he could not remember. In 1991, and within 2 years, he won the World Memory Championships. So the child who could never accomplish anything simply accomplished the impossible. He was told he could not and never could, and he did. So he won the Brain of the Year award because he trained his mind and body, and he became a writer, a thinker, and a teacher of children on how to learn, think, and remember. And his name is Dominic O'Brien.
Right.
And among the characteristics of the Brain of the Year award is the mind, the body, and the focus on their life vision. And his life vision was, if you like, the immortality of memory. And so after 1994, as he got older and older, and the memory is supposed to decline with age, he won again, and again, and again, and again, and again, and again. The 8 times world memory champion. Dominic, thank you for proving and demonstrating what we all believe in and what the Brain of the Year award actually signifies. In 1995, the next winner was Ted Hughes. How many of you have ever met or know of Ted Hughes? Yeah, Ted Hughes was the poet laureate, a giant of a man, and his main goal was to teach every child that they had wonderful brains, that they could remember, and that when they could remember, then they could create. So he would teach around England and around the world children how to learn how to remember. And once they realized that memory was images, imagination, associations, then memory was the same as poetry. And therefore every child who could daydream. How many of you, by the way, daydream? How many of you enjoy your daydreams? How many of you have already had a daydream in the tiny time that I've been speaking to you? And I know you have about 10 while I've been speaking to you. So Ted taught memory, he taught thinking, he taught creativity. And he built schools around that and spread it around the world. And I became a poet, partly inspired by him. I worked with Kate Bush's elder brother, John Bush, with the whole idea of poetry and memory. And Ted, who won the award in 1995, as you know, died in 1998. That for me was obviously extremely moving and difficult, and so I wrote a requiem to Ted Hughes, based on the way he thought and the things he loved. And he obviously was inspired by poetry as a child and throughout his life, and his favorite poem was The Eagle by Alfred Lord Tennyson. A simple, beautiful, metaphoric, glorious poem. And he would read it and recite it and give it to children. And it happened to be coincidentally my favorite poem, because I love nature. And the poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson said that he clasps the crag with crooked hands, near to the lonely sun, ringed with the azure world, he stands. The wrinkled sea beneath him crawls. He watches from his mountain walls, and like a thunderbolt, he falls. And when I was a little boy, and I didn't like poetry, and I heard that, it went straight in. I want to be like that. I want to be able to express the images, the thoughts, the beauty that I had in my mind and couldn't yet do. So it was through that poem and through Ted. So I wrote for him a poem wrong book. Actually, that would have been a very creative thing. And so this is the book that I have given to most of you. There is an image of Ted in the frontispiece, which is actually drawn by Lorraine during the poetry reading of Ted. And this is about the brain and the ear and the spirit of humanity and the children and the mind. So the poem that I wrote was about Ted and the eagle. A poem entitled Vas Spiritus Mundi. Sun-blasted in the cerulean blue, his beaked talons grasp the prey of meaning. Mountains, atmosphere, support. Crawling oceans subserve. Thunderbolts inform Ted's energy. Earth, his eerie, as he broods gigantically over the fragile eggshells of the planet's children's minds. That was for Ted, and that is for you. In 1998, a new winner of the award was a wonderful example of what it all meant, the relationship of the mind with the body. And the individual who won that is happily with us tonight. Yay. Steve Redgrave. And Steve, he won the award before the 2000 Olympics. So once again, he demonstrated that the brain, the mind, grows and develops. So he more than deserved the award, and he demonstrated more and more what it actually means. And one of the identification difficulties with a person like Steve is that he's big. and he's strong. So obviously the brain doesn't have much to do with it. And yet it became incredibly apparent that it was a massive mind. And when I was chatting with Steve, I was asking him, what is the difference at the beginning of the final in the Olympics? What's the difference? Because it's the same lake, people in the same kind of craft, the same boat, they've got the same kind of oars, they've got the same human bodies. What's the difference? They're all the same roughly size. And he said, not even, well, I wonder what it is. He just said immediately, the difference is the brain. That's the difference. And he was totally correct. And the work that he's done since that time, he obviously won the 5th consecutive Olympic gold. He's a knight, as knighthood really should be integrated into a person. He also, during Marlow Rowing Club's pretty rough time when the entire Marlow Rowing Club basically burnt down, Steve came in and he is saving it. He's raising funds for it. He has become the president of MRC. He's raising funds, and some of the funds tonight in the auction will go to Steve's charity. The most important part of my life was that recently, last July, when I was sculling, and Steve was on the same river at the same time. When we started, we were sculling, he was sculling, and he was about that far ahead of me. That far ahead of me. And it was going to be 2,000 meters. And I thought, can I beat it? So I was sculling, I was really pulling, I was doing fabulously well. But he was still just ahead of me. Just. I kept on putting in effort, more effort. And I stayed with him, And as the 2,000 meters mark came up, I was that close behind him. So for 2,000 meters, Steve was here and I held it. And the reason why I managed to stay with him is that we were in a double. It was one of the most wonderful experiences of my life. So Steve, thanks for everything. What a wonderful example of a brain of the year. And I am now handing the baton to our dear Prince, who won it last year. So at this moment in time, he's still the brain of the year. And he has the baton. And the Prince he is a prince of the mind. He works for the United Nations as the official ambassador for peace. And he provides the spirit, he writes poetry, all these wonderful things. And at the moment, you are still our brain of the year. and you really demonstrate its quality. Thank you. So I hand over to Ray, who will hand over to.
Thank you, Tony.
Brilliant.
Thank you, Tony. That was absolutely brilliant. Wonderful. Enchanting, amusing, entertaining speech to introduce our brains of the year who are here and some of the past winners. The Prince, sadly, in some ways, is soon about not to be brain of the year since we have a new laureate, and I'd like to invite Francis Stainton, who is usually Mayor of Hammersmith and Fulham, briefly not at the moment, but will be again very soon, has been in the past, the once and future Mayor, to introduce our new Brain of the Year, who is about to take the position from Prince Mohsen Ali Khan. So Francis, come up.
Your Highness, distinguished professors, amazing sportsmen, amazing brains, ladies and gentlemen, I think that covers everybody, doesn't it? Good evening, and what a special evening we're having here together. The Brain Trust goes from strength to strength, and I think this is under its leadership. And if you combine Tony Bazan and Ray Keane, well, you've got a catalyst, and it just explodes. And what they do is, well, a lot of the things we already all know what they do. But I think we should remember tonight that they do the bread and butter side of things. They do look after people who need help, and they help raise money for them. And that's what we're all going to try and help do today. I think that I've got one or two points here I wanted to put to you. And I think the main one, of course, is that tonight is the night when the winner is awarded this very prestigious award. And who better should it go to than Professor Michael Crawford? He's, of course, the director since 1990 of the Institute of Brain Chemistry and Human Nutrition, which shows just how much the right food is crucial to the brain's proper function. And of course, I would think to its super function, Professor, also, because many of you in this room will probably have had that eureka moment when the brain suddenly flashes you the answer or the question, which may change your life. It may simply inspire you for a particular moment when you need it, but it is a brainwave, and we're all very grateful to it just when it happens. And Professor Crawford tells us how the chain of nutrition from the algae that are on the bottom of the sea, which the fish feed on, takes up to a chain where the human, who comes from the sea, eats the fish and gets the nourishment he needs. It's an extraordinary, fascinating, but actually critical and fundamental need. I hope will tell us a bit more about that, because I've had some quite interesting conversations with him. And so Professor Crawford has also worked in hospitals across London, is currently in one very close to where I live, the Chelsea Westminster, but he's also been as far afield as Africa, Australia, publishing no less than 300 peer-approved papers, peer review papers, and some 3 books. I can't claim to have read them, but I'm certainly going to. He's won many prizes and honours, which include being elected to be on the Wall of Honour, the Hall of Honour in the Royal Society of Medicine. And we have Professor Dr. Ahmed Khan here from the Royal Society of Medicine, so he will probably have looked at this Wall of Fame where he shares a place and been interested to discover who the present brain is going to be. I think all this shows us what an original and what an exceptional and what a continuous contribution to society this Professor Michael Crawford has given us. He's clearly a very deserving winner of the Brain of the Year tonight. Now, this award, as you know, is going to be presented by last year's winner. And how would we describe him? Well, distinguished in everything, and everything spreads right across a spectrum of things, so I won't try to go into them all, but as you may get to know him, you'll learn that for yourself. But he's also the co-founder and current chairman of the World Peace and Prosperity Foundation, which is one of his newer undertakings. Not to be daunted by age, he'll start things whenever, and this is the right time for that. So it's been both a pleasure and an honor to say a few words to you about such a special person as Professor Michael Crawford, and also to thank you for your support. Thank you.
So now we reach the moment of the handover of the baton, as it were, and I'm going to remove the award from its little case. I don't know if you can see this. It's done by an artist called Catherine Dowson. It's a model of her brain created by a laser within a block of crystal. So it's an anatomically correct brain within crystal. Can you see it, or does it just look a block of glass? I'm sure that Professor Crawford will be only too delighted to pass it round afterwards so people can see it. So that's it. It's an anatomically correct brain, and I'd like to invite Prince Mohsen Ali Khan up to make the award and Professor Crawford to accept it. Excellent. And on the top of the little magnetic casket, you'll see a miniature Lorraine Gill work of art. Oh, I see. And then I'll invite you to speak after his.
Yes. I'm a little bit jealous. Such a lovely piece. But I'm equally very proud this evening. And all the support from our friends, admirers, intellectuals. Basically, we all have an intellectual ability. We can certainly improve our intelligence and our memory. The best thing I can say, I have written something, trying my best to translate, one of Urdu poetry, you know, we love Urdu. And हर एक खतरे में पिनाह है, हर एक खतरे में पिनाह है, समंदर, छुपा हर फूल में सारा चमन. The best thing I can translate, all the seas is in one drop. And all the garden is in one flower. So that's how I can express, your wisdom and what you have achieved deep down is remarkable, and we need people like you, and also we need people like you in the United Nations as well, of course. So may I present with your permission approval.
You speak.
What?
You say something. You
Okay.
make the acceptance speech, and then
so.
I'll give you to make some comments afterwards.
I'm deeply grateful for this award tonight. For having listened to Tony, I feel totally inadequate. Because such beauty, such effectiveness has come out from what you talked about, that I think whatever I have achieved is small. But what I've achieved is an important lesson that I'd like to communicate tonight. Because back in 1972, a young research worker and myself, Andrew Sinclair, were working on the chemistry of the brain. The reason we were working on the chemistry of the brain was very simple, that everybody was working on the chemistry of a lot of other things. The heart was the main problem at the time. Cardiovascular disease at the beginning of the century was a non-entity. By the 1970s, it was #1 killer. And it was due to the development of intensive land-based agriculture producing bad fats. I put it as simply as that. It came to us, the brain is made of fat, and if bad fats are around, what is the implication for the brain? So we started studying the brain, and we discovered that the brain contained certain types of fat. I will call the most limiting one DHA for simplicity. We demonstrated behavioral, learning problems, and in fact, integrity destruction of the brain without DHA during development. Then came 3 World Health, Food and Agricultural Organization meetings, in expert consultations, which confirmed everything we had said in 1972. But in 1972, having recognized the significance of this particular limiting nutrient to brain development and growth, and its significance to human reproduction and the products of conception in terms of growth of the brain and intelligence and vision and so on. Having recognized that, we then said that I wrote a book, 1972, and in that book I said that the heart disease mortality, #1 killer, was due to bad fats. The brain is made of special fats. Unless you do something about this in terms of food and agricultural policies, the brain will be next. To cut a long story short, there are 2 issues about this. One is, where do you get this a special nutrient that is required for brain function? And at the same time, my colleagues from Houston will remember that Gene Anderson, working at the Eye Institute, the Cullen Eye Institute, found that DHA was so essential for vision that it accounted for 50% of the structure of the photoreceptor that you actually see with. You can't see without it. And the vision, photoreceptor, is the first extrusion in embryology for the formation of the brain. And we then thought about this and then looked at the chemistry, starting with the dinoflagellates, which were the first system that converted photons from the sun 600 million years ago into electricity, that sparked the evolution of the nervous system and sparked the evolution of the brain. And the chemistry of that early photoreceptor system was exactly the same as in your and my eyeball today. So this woke us up and really seriously concerned about the fact that for 600 billion years, the chemistry of the brain, the photoreceptor, was identical. Nothing had replaced DHA in this central function, and we now have quantum mechanical data information, which we just published, to demonstrate the reason for this very unique specificity. So now we come to the crunch. The prediction in 1972 was that unless you do something about food and agricultural policy to take on board the special requirements for the brain, and may I point out the special requirements for the brain are not so much what you and I require, but the special requirements for the brain are before birth. They're to do with the mother, and even the mother before conception. The preparation, because 70% of the brain cells divide before you're born. And so what you, as intelligent people, are capable of doing today is dependent on what happened before you were actually born. So you now look at today's situation, and you remember my 1972 prediction that heart disease, the growth of heart disease from a rarity to #1 killer by the 1970s was due to bad fats. This is a very simplistic thing. We can argue about the details. Brain is made of fat. So, hey guys, we should think about that because the brain is going to be next. That's what I wrote. And it was published in the Times, Sunday Times. Graham Rose wrote a review of the article, of the book, and he said, unless we take attention to this, these are his words, we'll become a race of morons. This is published. That's what he wrote. Come 2013. Well, let's go back to 2004, a little bit before. The European Union decided to do an audit of the cost of brain disorder. The European Union decided to do an audit of the cost of ill health throughout all 25 member states. We knew they were doing this because we were very much involved in these kinds of circles with WHO and FAO. They had three expert consultations which had confirmed our findings in '72. And the European audit was published in 2005, and what it said was that the brain disorders had overtaken all other burdens of ill health in 25 member states to the cost of 386 billion euros. 386 billion euros. We then got a friend of ours, Lord Morris, to ask questions in the House. You know, what's the cost of brain disorders and mental health? Oh, we don't know this. Well, something about drugs, but we don't know about the cost of that sort of thing. But to give them credit, the government then asked Joe Nurse, Dr. Joe Nurse, who was head of the mental health division of the Department of Health, to do the numbers. The numbers for the United Kingdom came out in 2007, done by the Department of Health, at £77 billion. £77 billion was a greater cost than any other burden of ill health in the United Kingdom, and £77 billion was a greater cost than heart disease and cancer combined. So in effect, the prediction I made in '72 had come to pass because nobody had paid any attention to it. So what we're now saying is, what is the cost today? Because the government then said that, you know, this is too much. You know, there must be something wrong. So they got Dr. Nurse, and the European Union also had the same view. And in 2010, the cost of brain disorders in the European Union was €789 billion. Again, a total cost that overwhelmed everything else. And Dr. Nurse's cost for the Department of Health in 2010 was 105 billion, greater than the 77 billion only 3 years before. And what I want to put to you, and why I so appreciate this award, is because I feel that this gives us and the Brain Trust an opportunity to start to get something moving about this issue. Because if brain disorders continue to rise this century, as heart disease manifestly did last century, then what is at stake is the health, peace and prosperity of our children and our grandchildren. But we have the knowledge now. It's not just me. There are many others out there that have this knowledge. And it's not just being brought into the central system, it's not being brought into policy. Now, how would you bring it into policy? And let me put this to you, another issue. In 1804, the world population was 1 billion. It took 127 years to add another billion to the population. When I became interested in this topic in 1966, I wrote a paper, and already world population was 3 billion. And at that time, people were saying, hey guys, you're going to have 3 billion by the end of the millennium. How are we going to feed them all? Now backtrack to 1972. Where does this DHA come from? The richest source, of course, was where it all started, in the marine food web. Is it available in intensive agriculture from the land? The answer is no. So there's a very good reason as to why, in recent years, brain disorders have now been overtaking all other burdens of ill health. So now, let's just look at this position. The foresight assessment of food and agriculture states that there is not enough arable land, or even new arable land, available to feed the 7 billion we have now, never mind the 8 billion in 8 years' time, never mind the 9 billion that are predicted, that are inevitable as a consequence of population dynamics today. So where's it going to come from? They don't even discuss the brain. And so my parting answer is this, that what we're going to have to do is what the Korean Expo 2012 had as its highlight. It was, life began in the oceans. We have to save the oceans to help ourselves. By the year 2000, the total global fish catch, which was supposed to feed the world, had plateaued. What's going on in the oceans is incredible. It's hunting and gathering. It's Neanderthal stuff. It's the stuff that they did 100,000 years ago. The only thing that's happened is technology has improved. But despite the improvement of technology, they're not getting any more fish out of the sea. And efficient seafood, and I put it to you that Chris Stringer from the British Museum has provided confirmatory evidence that Homo sapiens evolved actually not in the savannas of Africa, where there was no water to drink, and wherever we evolved we needed water to drink, but at the coastlines. And he has shown how Homo sapiens migrated out of Africa, populated the planet around the coastlines. It was only population pressure that caused people to move inland. And people moving inland now have the greatest incidence of iodine deficiency disease and various other disorders which cause low birth weight and mental infirmity. So the only answer to the future is to agriculturalize the oceans. Because this hunting and gathering of marine seafood is a Neanderthal proposition. And to agriculturalize the oceans, what do you mean? You have cows on grass, you plant grass on the seabed, and the same thing happens. You use photosynthesis, not aquaculture, which is feeding fish with fish. This is using the same principle of land-based agriculture, but under the water. And I can tell you today that the Japanese, the Indonesians, the Koreans, and the people in Oman, with whom I'm a consultant, are now investing many billions in beginning of developing marine agriculture for this reason. And what I have to say is this, that in the United Kingdom, We have, what, between 17 and 18,000 hectares of arable land, very little precious else to develop. It's an interesting example. But we have 19,000 miles of coastline. Not all of it can be developed for marine agriculture, in the same way that not all of our land can be developed for agriculture. But we can do something here to sustain the supply of the nutrients that are important for the brain, and which historically go back. And I'm reminded by the interesting events of the British Museum, which are now showing the works of the discoveries in Herculaneum in after Pompeii in AD 79, where the sewers have revealed evidence that the poor people were not at all poor in the current sense, and that the amount of seafood and the variety of seafood that they ate at that time was far greater than anybody eats today. But you take the British sewers of London here, what do they have to do? They have to take machines to carve out the saturated fat so the sewers can still flow. Saturated fat from intensive agriculture, which is destroying our arteries and our hearts and our brains. So if I can just end by saying I deeply appreciate this award, and I hope that in some way we are going to be able together to make a difference to the future that our children and their children depends on. Because the future is their brain. It's their brain that's going to lead to prosperity. It's their brain that's going to lead to happiness. And if brain disorders continue this century, the outlook is extremely grim. But the converse is also very different. The converse is that if we can get it right, we can lead to poetry, we can lead to art, we can lead to music, we can lead to happiness and prosperity. Because what's at stake is the future of our children. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Crawford. Oh, one more. Yes.
Yes. Lady Mayor has reminded me that I was going to show you the evidence for Homo sapiens' origin and dependence on seafood. Now, there are two bits of evidence I have here. The first is the town child. This is where the idea that humans evolved in Africa began in 1925, the discovery of this skull of a child. And if you look at the teeth, they're totally human. And this was 2 million years ago. And the British establishment didn't want to know about it. But let's leave that aside. Let's now move forward to Heidelbergensis. Here is Heidelbergensis. Now Heidelbergensis, you know where Heidelberg is. It's not exactly on the seaside. Look at the shape of the skull. Look at the flat line here. Just look at it. That's Heidelbergensis. Okay. Now let me show you a contemporary. That Heidelbergensis didn't eat fish. Let me show you a contemporary.
Alas, poor Yorick.
You can see, you can feel your own forehead, because your own forehead, the frontal lobes, are where cognitive development, the integration of all the things we adore and we love, so creative and beauty lie in this area. So this is it. No fish. Fish.
Now, I'm very, very glad that for all our friends who are here supporting from different walk of life, and each of us has a intellectual and spiritual dimension. And I'm sure that this event and the purpose of this event is to promote intellectualism, rationalism, and spiritualism. I'm surrounded by all these noble people, and especially on my right-hand side, the great man, and also on my left-hand side, the other honorable. So my greetings to Sir Crawford for coming, and many people came from America. Lady Mayor, of course, is here. Tata representing without their, Rolls-Royce and Jaguar. And somehow, I think there is another gentleman, Dr. Chuktai. I'm very grateful for you to come, and also your team, your people have taken interest in promoting our platform around the world. May I, to appreciate on this occasion, I wanted to honor just one bottle of wine to each of them, so they should not fight. Special wine, they said it's special, very good quality, I think.
Thank you very much.
But please make sure that you will be drinking with your wife.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Promise.
My brother Tony Bison, you are man of the world equally, and don't forget to celebrate and think about us. Thank you.
The final part of the evening is going to be the auction of quite a large number of items, which are mainly listed in the sheet of paper I gave you, although some have arrived after I printed the sheet. Everything's going to support the charities, but before we do that, Lorraine Gill, who's represented by 5 magnificent prints here, partially created by, where's Richard? Richard, there he is, Richard Morris, known as a wizard by Lorraine and Tony for the amazing things he does with Lorraine's paintings. And I'd like to invite Lorraine up to say a few words about her paintings before we try to flog them to you for vastly inflated prices. Lorraine, up you come.
Your Highness, distinguished guests, and Professor Crawford, for such an inspiring and knowledgeable lecture for us in terms of our evolution. It reminds me of a quote by Einstein, which said, "To receive the accolade of our peers is more happiness than a man can bear." And I think you achieved that this evening. So, on to the images. I think it might be common knowledge that I spent a great deal of time in the desert of Australia, living with Aboriginal people who were extremely kind to me. And speaking of that, today is Anzac Day. Hooray! For the Australians. Plus, for the first time, Aboriginal people have been invited to join Anzac Day. So that's quite a moment in Australian history. But to get on with it, the image over to the right is based upon an experience way out in the desert for a first experience of eating witchetty grubs. And it was way out, and there wasn't much food, and the Aboriginal women had been out all day with a crowbar digging up the acacia roots to try to find the big maggots, which are the witchetty grubs. The remarkable thing about Aboriginal people is their generosity of spirit under hardship. So by the end of the day, in an old tin can, by a fire, they fished out 4 of these large witchetty grubs before bush tucker became fashionable in Australia, and they rolled it in the ashes, and the first witchetty, although the kids were hungry, they gave to me. Now, I was with a teacher out there, and I more or less went, and because of Aboriginal courtesy, you couldn't do anything, and she said, just bite it in half and I'll take the other half. So I literally just threw it down, and it tasted a bit like scrambled egg, and so we got over that and got through the sort of ceremonial first of eating a witchetty grub way out there in the desert. And so the situation with Aboriginal people at the time wasn't extremely good, and so I based a painting calling it Maku, which is witchetty. The original painting is not in that format, but due to the genius of my colleague, Richard Morris, who I hope isn't hiding there, he has formatted it into a circular print on canvas with a different form. So it's not rectangular, it's actually round in shape, but with the basic colours and meaning behind it. This one was when, before Ayers Rock was called Uluru, Uluru being given over to Aboriginal people for their sacred place. I used to climb Uluru. I spent quite a long time out there, and I was there when the baby dingo case happened. I was not far away from the scene. But when I used to climb up Uluru, from the top of Uluru, it was 1,500 feet, you could see the horizon, which was 360 degrees. The Aboriginal people believed that the earth was a flat plain, and out of the earth grew all of the flora and fauna, and the earth and the stars were interconnected by legends, the dreaming, a very rich cultural society, complex in terms of poetry, dance, song, and visualization. And my way of painting this out was to paint the circular painting with all of the flora and fauna within the painting, the earth being a flat plane, but also at the same time a planet hanging in space, connected to the galaxies. The Aboriginal people have legends of how all of the stars and the mythical ancestors came down to Earth, and every mark, every single thing in this painting exists within the markings on the land itself. And the Aboriginal people can read the Earth as though it was a map, an alphabet, a grammar for survival. It is quite extraordinary. So that is called global brain. The reason it's called global brain, because on the side of Uluru, because of the weathering and the rains, somehow or other etched into the side of Uluru is a great brain shape. It's quite remarkable how this weathering has occurred, but it also is a sacred site, and it also gives off some sort of emanations. It's quite extraordinary. This image is based on light or flight into light. Now, way out in the desert, when you're driving along, anything can happen. along the dusty roads. And suddenly, out of nowhere, came a flock of birds and twisted and turned in front of the windscreen, and it created a volume of feathers, and they sparkled in the light, because in the Australian light, it's primary. It has the illusion of everything shifting and changing optically. But due to my colleague's technical ability, he has translated it into a circular piece. Now, on my left, I call it vortex, vortexed. It's based on the patterns and mathematics of the evolving of a flower or plant life, which has a fundamental mathematics behind it in its complexity. So it is a universal subject of numbers arising from all universals of life. And I think I might have, over on the right-hand side, opposites attract, and that is based on the markings that exist in the desert landscape by which Aboriginal people live and learn in terms of their survival. So, with your permission, because he's quite shy, but he's behind these eurekas of technological expertise and cutting edge in taking my original paintings and transforming them into these prints on canvas, is my colleague and dear friend Richard Morris. So I wonder if you wouldn't mind meeting him this evening. This is the first time Richard has actually got up to say anything at all, so I wonder if you wouldn't mind just saying a few words.
Well, all I can say is that the works we are working on are pretty much cutting edge. We push computers to their absolute limits, and if you've got a digital camera, which is probably maybe 14 or 20 megapixels, these pictures are nearly 1,000 megapixels in complexity and scanned in 3 dimensions. So that's about all I can say, really. So
Thank
thanks,
you.
Lorraine. Okay.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. Now, I have 3 charming, intelligent and talented assistants. Gulruk, Sally and Annette, if you wouldn't mind coming here, who are going to take round the items we're going to auction. And I suggest, Gulruk, maybe you could take one of Elizabeth's, yes, and Annette and Sally, if you could take reachable ones of Lorraine, move them round. Yeah. And while we're doing this, showing off some of the items for auction, Elizabeth Williams is here. Elizabeth? Elizabeth? Elizabeth, can you come up? Yeah. Come up here. Elizabeth painted the 2 seascapes, which she's donated very kindly for the evening. Would you just like to say a few brief words about your seascapes? You have to speak up, because it's the microphone, isn't it?
Right. Well, my name's Elizabeth Williams, and I'm the artist of the 2 seascapes here. I feel very humbled to be here and to have donated the pictures that you see. That's it, really. I'm just delighted to be here and to be invited here and to have donated the pictures.
That's very kind, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Now, the first item we're going to auction, Sally, can I ask you to take that round and show people? Is a bottle of House of Lords champagne, generously donated by Prince Mohsen Ali Khan, and Sally's going to take it round and show it to you. The next thing we're going to donate, or auction, Gulruk, if you could take this. This is a book about the great geniuses, written by Tony and myself. It is as yet unsigned, but the lucky person who bids for it, we will volunteer to sign it. So can you take that round, Gulruk? And then this book, very interesting. I hope there are some Kate Bush fans here. This is a book of photographs of the young Kate Bush taken by her brother, John Carter Bush, in an extremely limited edition. It's got a lovely folder. It's signed, and a volunteer, Annette, will take that round and show it to you. Have they all seen it, Sally? And the next two items, Tally, do you want to put that down? The next two items are the latest book of poetry by John Bush, who is Kate Bush's brother. One book is signed, one book not yet signed, but we can arrange anything. So, Sally, would you like to take those two round and show them to people as well? Limited edition, only 100 copies, written by Kate Bush's brother. Right, first item, House of Lords champagne. Silence, House of Lords champagne. Who'd like to buy the House of Lords bottle of champagne? Anyone? Any bids for the House of Lords champagne? £15? 20? 25? Any advance on 25? What? What was that? 30? Who said 30? Oh, 30. Okay. 30. £30. Going, gone. £30 bottle of champagne. Come and collect your bottle of champagne. We'll settle up later on. Okay. Next item is an as yet unsigned book by Tony and myself, first edition. We can sign it tonight. So, Book of Genius, How to Become a Genius. Any offers for that? Anyone? £10? Any advance on £10? It's yours, you can't. All right, 20, okay. Anybody, any advance on 20? 30, very good. Sorry? Who said 35? Oh, 35, very good. 40. Any advance on 40? 50. Who said 50? Oh, 50, very good. Any advance on 50? 50 going? Once? How much? 60. Current bid is 60. Any advance on 60? Going to Clive Davey. How much? How much? 65. 65 with Suhail. Anyone want to top 65? 65 going once, going twice, gone. 65 to Suhail. Come and get your book, Suhail.
Can't let it go.
There we go. I've signed it, and you give it to Tony, he'll sign it too.
Thank you.
Go ahead. Right. Where's the Kate Bush photographs gone?
Kate Bush photographs.
Who's got the Kate Bush photographs? Can I have them? Can I have the Kate Bush photographs?
People were seriously looking at them.
Good. Okay, we'll do that next. Right. Limited edition Kate Bush photographs done by her brother. Who would like to start? 20?
30.
30. Dominic, what were you bidding? Or were you scratching your nose? 30. Okay, any advance on 30? What? Who said 50? Dominic, 50. Any advance on 50? 60. Any advance on 60? How much was that?
75.
75 to Neil. Any advance on 75? 75 to Neil. Going once. Going twice. 75 to Neil. Right, next item, unsigned poems by John Bush, Kate Bush's brother. Unsigned poems, but it can be signed if we work on it later on. So far unsigned. John Bush's latest book of poems. First book of poems. Didn't realise. Any bid for John Bush's poems? £50, okay? What was that? 15. Fine. Okay, any advance on 15? John Bush unsigned poems. Any advance on 15? No? Okay, Deborah, well done, 15. You want to give that to Deborah? Now the next one is John Bush's first book of poems, signed, John Bush being Kate Bush's brother, of course. There's the signature. 100 copies, limited edition. What do I bid for that? Signed copy of John Bush's poems. Sorry? Anything you like to start with? £10. £10 to Brain of the Year. £20. Who said 20? 20, is that right? 25. Who said 25? Oh, 25, right. 25 to Professor Crawford. £30. 35. Any advance on 35? Didn't you bid 35?
36, just in case. And it's delightful.
Any advance on 36 from Professor Crawford? Anyone feel like outbidding the Brain of the Year?
You want 40?
40, yeah, would be lovely. 40 from Dr. Malik?
40?
Yes, 40. $41. 41 to Professor Crawford. Any advance on 41?
What are we bidding?
John Bush's first signed book of poems. John Bush, Kate Bush's brother. 45. Any advance on 45? 50. 50 with Dr. Malik. Right.
How far are we going to go with it? He wants 50, does it?
Dr. Malik has bid 50. Any advance on 50? 55. Anyone tempted to outdo the Brain of the Year? I was cleverer than Professor Crawford, bid more. What? 55. Okay, 55. What? What did you say, Francis? 56. 60. Good. 60. With Francis. £60.
61.60.
This is getting too complicated. I think We're going to have to go up in tens from now on. 60 gets it for Francis, unless the next bid is 70. We can't go up in fractions of pennies. It's not we don't have cents like you do in America. Well, we have cents, but not that sort of sense. Okay, so it's with Francis for 60. Any advance on 60? Going once?
Is that euros or pounds?
Pounds. We only deal in sterling here. So, £60 with Francis, John Bush's signed poems, going once, going twice.
65.
65. 70. This is becoming tense. Any advance on 70? 70 to Francis, once, 70 twice. Next one it'll go. Do I hear anything? 70 to Francis. There we go. Right. Now, let's do a Lorraine painting. Sally, can you take that one round? Yep. This is the first of Lorraine's paintings. We know there are avid collectors of Lorraine's paintings in the room. Well, they were. Yes, still there. Okay, let's open the bidding for this painting by Lorraine. Anyone care to bid for this painting by Lorraine? Do I have a bid for this painting by Lorraine?
200.
200. Who was that?
That's me, right?
Oh, Neil. Neil, £200. Any advance on 200?
Gone.
I think it probably has. Okay, that's for Neil. There you are, Neil, 200. Okay. Annette's taking it round. Do we have any bids for the Elizabeth Williams Seascape? We take anything. All known currencies. Anyone want to pay by credit card? We'll take it and I'll ring you tomorrow. This is, well, it's whatever you want to bid, Michael. This is a seascape. £10. Okay. £10 from Professor Crawford. Could we do better than £10 for this original Seascape by Elizabeth? 15, yes, okay. Can somebody else do better than £15 from Professor Crawford? No, don't be intimidated, pipe up. 300.
What?
Wonderful. Was that Sasha? Well done. 350. Very good. No? I think that's it. Well done. Yes. 350. Fantastic. The brain of the year strikes again. And now I'm going to change tack a little bit. We have two prizes which are abstract in the sense that we can't actually give it to you now, but it will be arranged according to your convenience. And the first one is an all expenses paid trip to Venice, including a hotel for 4 nights for 2 people, including airfares and entrance to major art galleries. So this is quite a substantial prize or auction item. So it includes airfare, it includes hotel, it's for 2 people, tickets to art galleries, water taxis from the airport to the hotel, and I think it includes breakfast as well. So this is the all expenses paid trip to Venice. Anyone tempted by going to Venice? $200. Any advance on 200? 300, okay. Any advance on 300? 400, very good. 500, excellent. Was that you, Deborah? 500, very good. Any advance on 500? It's very cheap at the price. Yes, it is. 600, very good. 700 from Deborah, very good. Any advance on Deborah's 700? This is 3 nights in Venice, all airfares paid, 2 people, lovely holiday, entrance to art galleries. Deborah's 700 at the moment.
What? 2-star hotel?
No, it's better than that. I think it's a 4-star hotel. Yes. So at the moment it's with 750, 1,000. Oh, 800. Sorry, 800 with Sir Steve Redgrave. Any advance on 800? 900. Any advance on 900? Come on, Steve. Come on, Steve, I'm sure you're lovely. 1,000, very good. 1,000 from Steve Redgrave. Any advance on 1,000? Come on, you can say you beat Sir Steve Redgrave. Not necessarily at rowing. 1,000, okay, so for Sir Steve. 1,000 once, 1,000 twice. Steve Redgrave, 1,000. Congratulations. Okay, now, shall we do another one of Elizabeth's paintings, the seascape? Gulruk, would you like to take that round? And Sally, could you take round one of Lorraine's? Now, bearing in mind that Professor Crawford bought the small seascape for 350, this is a large seascape by Elizabeth Williams, and I'll leave you to do the maths. So small scape 350, large seascape. So let's do the seascape first. Any bids for Elizabeth Williams' large seascape? A wonderful souvenir of the evening. Dominic, are you bidding or just watching? Dominic, were you bidding? No, you weren't. Right. Okay, so we're doing Elizabeth Williams' large seascape. Any bids for Elizabeth Williams' large seascape? Right, are we going, let's do Elizabeth. Anyone like to make a bid of some sort? Deborah, you haven't got anything yet. Oh yes, Clive? £100, large seascape by Elizabeth Williams. £100 with Clive Davey. Any advance on £100, the large seascape? Okay, £100 once, £100 twice, sold to Clive Davey. And now let's do Lorraine's. Can you give that to Clive, Gulruk? You give it to him, thank you. Wonderful souvenir of the evening. Next print by Lorraine. Any bids at all? 50? Any advance on 50? 100, very good. Ladies in red competing with each other. Any advance on 150? 150 once. 150 twice. Great souvenir of the evening. Going, gone. It's yours for 150. Next item, on the 28th of this month, the Saracens Rugby Club is playing the semi-final of the Heineken Cup at Twickenham against Toulon. So we have a pair of tickets, premium seats, April the 28th, Saracens against Toulon in the Heineken Cup semi-final. Do I hear a bid? Sorry? Johnny Wilkinson is playing, the David Beckham of English rugby. I think he's playing for the French though, isn't he? Okay, 2 rugby tickets donated by Tony Bizan. Any bids for those? Anyone like rugby? Someone must like rugby. Chess boxers must like rugby, for God's sake. You can flog them on.
100 quid.
100 quid, very good. £100 for the rugby tickets. Any advance on 100? Right. Okay. Going once. Going twice. Going to this gentleman. Sorry, what's your name?
Graham.
Oh, you're Graham, right. Graham Price. Graham Price. Now, the next item, let's see if we can talk to Stephen to getting this one as well. Very similar to the Venice trip, but it's to Vienna. So it's 3 nights in the hotel in Vienna, Central Hotel, airfares for 2, hotel for 2 included, breakfast included, plus a private tour of the Prince of Liechtenstein's art collection in Venice, which is not open to the public. It's only open to invited guests, so this particular item includes the airfares for 2, the transfers in Vienna, lovely hotel, entrance to art galleries, and a private tour of the art collection of the Princes of Liechtenstein. So what do I bid for this? This is a really sensational offer. Anyone make an opening bid for this? 200 from Deborah. Any advance on 200? This is being given away, I might add, at £200.
250.
250? Who said 250?
I did, right.
Oh, right. It's still being given away. 300 from Deborah? 350? 400? 450? 550? 550 with Deborah, I think it was. 640.
675.
675. Come on, Deborah. You haven't got anything yet.
Go on, Deborah, go for it.
700 from Deborah.
Yeah, 717.
707. I think we have to go up in at least tens from now on, or multiples of
Sorry, right. Okay, 720.
720. Deborah? 800. It's 2 people.
I can't look at you there, Deborah, but I will do it. Where are we, mate?
800.
840.
840.
Yeah.
840 once. £1,000.
I'm out, mate.
You're out?
Yeah.
Okay, Deborah's bid £1,000. Anyone want to do better than £1,000? 3 nights in Venice. Hotel.
Vienna.
Sorry, Vienna, quite right. What was it? No, Vienna. Current bid, 3 nights in Vienna, private invitation to the Prince's Art Gallery, £1,000. Anyone want to bid more than £1,000? I'll take 1,010. Okay. No other bids? No? 1,000 to Deborah once, 1,000 twice. Gone to Deborah. £1,000. Now, it's getting late, and I see that one or two people are defecting. So I'm going to give you a bargain offer for this. I'm going to offer all three as one lot. All three paintings as one lot. So ideal, for example, for a corporate venue.
Right, I want the one on the right, not the other two.
Fine.
So,
take all that back.
Bidding,
Take all that back.
think about that.
Take all that back.
That'd be fine.
Rescind that. Which is the one you want?
I want the one on the right.
Oh, that's your right, this one. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll focus on this one. Okay.
I don't mind what happens to those, but I want
Please do make an opening bid.
So I'll open with 150 for the one on the right.
Neil, 150. 200?
Was that for all of them or just one on the right? Okay. What'd you say? 200. 200. Okay. 250.
250 with Neil?
Yeah.
300?
350.
350? 400? 450? Any advance on 450? 500?
Right, I didn't have to bid on that one. She went up.
Any
Where
advance?
are we? Where are we?
500 with the lady in red?
I'll tell you what, for that price, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, cool.
Okay, going, gone. 500. Right, due to the amazing success of setting them off individually.
Ray, I think I've done you a favour.
Yeah.
Right there, fella. Yeah.
Right. Okay, the next Lorraine Gill, setting them separately.
200.
200, very good. Rajco, 200. Any advance on 200? Rajco, the famous world organiser of chess boxing. Don't be afraid, he won't beat you up if you overbid him. 200 to Rajco.
What about this young man over here? You fancy buying his paintings? Another one, didn't you?
The one I really wanted, somebody else bid me on.
Oh, jolly bad luck. But this one's very good.
Okay, with Rajco on 200. Sorry, Raj, I know it's not how you pronounce your name, but it looks like that, just for recognition purposes. Raiko, 200. Any advance on 200 for the penultimate Lorraine Gill? Going once, going twice, 200 to Raiko. And then for the last item of the evening, Lorraine's final work of art. I mean, final here tonight, not final ever. Anyone care to open the bidding for this final work by Lorraine?
200.
200, very good. Again. Any advance on 200? Raiko's about to corner the market in Lorraine's. Okay, 200 once, 200 twice, 200 to Rajco. There you are, another one. That brings to an end this year's Brain of the Year ceremony. If you need to leave, I'd like to point out that we finished only 6 minutes after schedule. Okay. Yes, Chris.
And so on, and so everybody should know.
Okay. Before we depart, and if you've got trains to catch, we've essentially finished only 6 minutes behind the published schedule. But if you want to stay on, you're very welcome to stay on. I have a few closing remarks. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for bidding so positively. Before you go, we have a lady here called Jordana, who is a manifestation of the brain and spirit. She's a clairvoyant, and if you'd like to talk to her before you go, please do.
She's not a clairvoyant.
Oh, sorry.
She's a healer.
A what?
Healer.
Oh, healer.
She's a healer.
I thought you said killer.
No kill. Well, also a killer if you're not very good.
Right.
Excuse me, can we pay attention just for a couple of minutes? This lady here in a red dress, please, can you stand up? Her name is Gordana, and she's from Macedonia. She's a special guest tonight because this ceremony is regarding the brain. When we're talking about brain, mind, and body, this is a very unique individual who is not a clairvoyant, he is not a spiritual healer. She is a healer, and the healing powers, they're in her hands. The hands, which they have the power from up there, from where we all coming from. And I'm really, really pleased that Michael was talking for a good 20 minutes about the beautiful seascapes, the sea rather, because she loves seascapes, and all the flora and fauna from the seas, and the brain, and how the brain functions, and so on. Well, this is connected to this lady, is all connected to the powers from up there, and Mother Nature in general. And when we're talking about the brain, and anybody wants to know a little bit more about the powers of the brain and the body and the spirit, this is the lady here. She can prove it. She doesn't speak much English, but she's very good in what she does. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sasha. So as I said, we've now concluded the evening. You're welcome to stay, catch trains, go home, book a suite in the Savoy, whatever you like. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for being so positive and energetic in the charitable auction. And I hope to see you all next on June the 2nd, Phyllis Court Club, Henley-on-Thames, Tony's official biography launch and his 71st birthday. As you'll notice, Professor Crawford said that all intelligent human beings live by the water, so that's why we've chosen the Thames. Tony's house is a few yards from the Thames, so according to the latest medical theories, you're doing very well in the intelligence area, Tony. Chosen the right place to live. No Neanderthals in Henley-on-Thames. Thank you very much. Thank you all for coming.